welcome to Recovery Month. My name is Nathan, I am a 39-year-old and I am a man in recovery, recovery from addiction to alcohol. So I've been asked to do this. I'm not quite sure how this happened, but I do know actually I fell for one of the oldest sales tricks in the book. And I was approached and someone said to me, "Oh, I've got a really good idea for Recovery Month." And immediately you're drawn in, and then I fell for the sucker punch, which is called what I like to call the human touch. They said, "I've had an idea, now if you don't like it, just blame me." Now immediately, you know, if the person's likeable, which this person is, you're then saying no to the person, not the idea. So here I am, and one thing I have noticed, which is very, very peculiar, which I've not done before. See, for you watching this, this is a two-way experience. You're looking at a human being, and you're reacting to a human being. I'm not. I'm just looking at a black circle, which I've named Hal. And if anyone's seen 2001: Space Odyssey, I've got a cold. Sorry. If anyone's seen 2001: Space Odyssey, they will know why I've called it Hal. Hello, Dave. So you'll have to bear with me while I get used to that whole one-way conversation thing, because I'm just in the living room talking to myself, aren't I? Let's be honest. The neighbours probably think I'm insane, or more insane. I'm not in a wheelie bin looking for a drink or anything like that, which has happened. So, a little bit about me, so you've got more of an idea of where I'm coming from. So I've recently come out of rehab, so 2 months, I've been 2 months out of rehab. I'm just over 5 months clean, sober, abstinent, whatever you want to call it. I left on June the 30th. So that's where I am. So I'm still in early stages of recovery, still going through, you know, still clucking like Bernard Matthews' garden on occasion, and you'll go through all of those things with me, and I'll explain a little bit about what we're doing. I'll give you something about me. So I started drinking when I was 13, drinking and using drugs when I was 13. Earliest memory of drinking was sitting down with a friend of mine called Matthew. My mum was out working, and we found a bottle of Pernod. Now he had a couple of drinks of this Pernod, and off he went, sloshed. I didn't. I drank the whole thing. I wanted to see what would happen. Of course, we know what happened. I got absolutely. It's obvious what was going to happen. I got absolutely blind drunk, and my mum had to make me sick and all that stuff. So I drank alcoholically from the word go, and I have that in me. I am, you know, we all know the illness. So I won't bore you with too much about the history of drinking or taking drugs. There's not a lot of point. I've taken most drugs. I've used most drugs, but drinking ultimately was the one that would eventually bring me to my knees. I kind of just got washed along in life. I never sort of had a passion for anything in particular, but I ended up, after travelling and being in bands all the time, if ever I mention not, at this stage, not drinking or taking drugs, just take it as a read that that's what was happening in the background, but the life happening on top of that, and you know, integral to that, was obviously, you know, standard stuff like getting washed into. It's always been customer facing roles, client based. Started off doing exhibitions, travelling around Europe, working for an American battery company, organising things like exhibitions in Cologne, where it was my job to just get people onto a stand to drink. Perfect for me. And I was always, I don't know whether I deliberately made the choice to go into that type of industry, or whether the industry chose me, or it was a combination of two. You start to question your choices when you're sitting where I am, and where you may be, and you wonder if anything was really off chance decision. But wash long, I ended up, got made redundant from there. Ultimately quite a boring story. Drinking always there, drugs always there. Then I happened to see an advert for, back in the days when they advertised jobs in newspapers, and there was an advert for a job as a sales coordinator in a bank. So I took the opportunity to go and work in a bank, and the interview was pathetic, really. It was, do you like cricket? Yes. I went to a grammar school, so cricket was like a religion when I was at school. Do you like cricket? Yes, I do. Good. There's a cricket match on tomorrow, we're sponsoring the team. Would you like to come? There's a tent and loads of beer involved. Yes, I would. Okay, you got the job, you start tomorrow, I'll see you at the cricket ground. And that was it. And then over the course of the next sort of 8-10 years, it was just a very, you comfortably numb. You go from one sort of job to another. I was constantly going from sort of one job and then getting promoted. Outwardly, at this point, I suppose, quite outwardly gregarious. Outwardly, looks like I like people in this juncture. I didn't actually. I was essentially misanthropic. Didn't like. Was forced to have human interaction with people. I actually looked at and just thought, I really don't like you. But very manipulative by nature. A good liar. Tend to be able to make people do things that otherwise they would consider they wouldn't want to do. And if you're in sales and you're in banking, that's a great attribute. As a human being, it's terrible. But then again, we could have the argument about banking and stuff. So capitalism. So yeah, continue to just go from role to role into that whole client entertaining thing, where alcohol, the consumption of alcohol and drug use and that whole scene, they're laud, they're revered. They're revered as this great thing. Oh, you were drunk last night. Yeah, oh, blimey, yeah, oh, I didn't get in till 5. Well done, you. Fantastic. Good. Let's get on with it. Not as drunk as him. Maybe you could try better next time. The culture is terrible. And there I was with my condition, with the fact that I know now that from the moment I drank, I was an alcoholic. And this then carries on. So eventually went from, I was in Kent at this point, and if that's not very interesting, but I was living in Kent, then eventually come up to Essex, and all the personal stuff I won't bore you with the details of. All the time this drink is becoming more and more prevalent, and eventually it was at a house of cards. By this point now, I'm a senior, don't ask me how this happened. I'm actually terrible at maths, is the irony. By this point I'm now a senior relationship manager in a commercial bank. And it's the complete opposite, and it's in juxtaposition to everything that I am as a human being. Really, I'm not materialistic, and I don't enjoy that whole corporate scene. But there I was, nonetheless, putting on this mask. The mask getting thicker and thicker. Still, there's this emptiness here which I can't explain. I think we all know what that is. This something that needs to be filled, that's not being filled by this target being hit, this money being hit, this job being won, this interview being passed. Still, this is here. And eventually, it just became too much. The mask became almost maniacal. This maniacal version of myself, this hideous caricature that had manifested from this boy who actually quite liked music and poetry and all that stuff, the arts. But there, the ideal me and the real me were just so, so far apart. It was painful, and eventually the whole bloody house of cards came crashing down. I left. The job became untenable for a multitude of reasons. Drink obviously played a huge factor. Let's not beat around the bush. So I walked. I wasn't in fact sacked. I did walk after a wink and a nod. And can we have your badge and your gun, please? So before any further discord was going to happen, I went. So I was then on my own. I'm engaged, but I was in the house on my own with money and a crippling addiction, and isolation is not good for my ilk. If you are one of my ilk, or not, you're just watching this. In fact, at this point, you might be thinking, why the bloody hell am I watching it at all? Who is this guy? If so, you just there's probably a cross here, and you just press that and get rid of me. So I'm in the house on my own. Other half's away every day, and the level of my drinking continues. My ability to maintain a facade of normality remains. I'm told I was probably high functioning. People ban that around. I don't know what it means, but for me it meant I could appear like I was surviving in some semblance of normality, while underneath I was drinking vast amounts of alcohol. Drugs had fallen by the wayside by this point because they're not easily accessible. I've come up from Essex, so I didn't know the right people to get it when I wanted and how I wanted, and immediately. So drink, you could always get hold of drink, and that was very easy and convenient, as alcohol is. Drinking more and more and more and more, eating less and less and less and less, to the point I just was negating to eat at all, really. Eventually, it became apparent that something on all fronts, from those that love me, even the self-denial at this point was phenomenal, because it was only those people outside were saying, you should go to the doctor, have a look at this, and all someone was saying, no, I'm fine. Then it starts falling apart. I develop ascites, which is, if you don't know what it is, it's swollen stomach. Fluid has started to gather in the stomach because my body's not processing the amount of alcohol I'm drinking. I've lost a tremendous amount of weight. I'm getting very, very confused. The only time I'm not drinking really is when I'm sleeping. The physical dependency at this point is horrendous. I lose my licence at this point through drink driving. Thankfully, no one was hurt. I drove 400 yards but was pulled over. I think someone in the supermarket had been seeing me drinking in the car, and I was pulled over. So that was horrendous. Being locked in a cell waiting to come down is not a nice feeling. The shakes and stuff is horrible. And I'd been in contact with Open Road at this point as well. It's all a bit hazy, and the reason I say it's a bit hazy on the lead up to this scenario is because I discovered, so this all comes to a head. I go to a hospital, they say, I'm still laughing and joking, my mum's taking me there because of ascites, I'm still laughing and joking, they do the blood results, and I say to them, am I going home now? And they say, no, you're going nowhere. And then I was detoxed in a sort of an emergency way, because things were getting pretty bloody serious at that point. So, as I was saying, the reason I say it is because I found out when I was being detoxed, actually I was suffering from the early onset of dementia, which is why things are very hazy. So, the upshot is, I was detoxed. I was then at the time, Open Road were doing things in the background with my mum, and they were fantastic, and they managed to get me into Sharps, which is self-help addiction rehabilitation program. I think if that's not right, someone from Sharps can ring me up and say, wasted our money. I went there, and that changed my life, and if that sounds dramatic, I don't care. A complete turnaround for me. You wouldn't have recognised, if you see me in the bank now, you wouldn't have recognised this didn't exist and this didn't exist, and I'm not the man you see before you. It's not just an outward transformation that happened there, it was an inward transformation. I managed to get back in contact with who I was. And that's the important bit of this story. It's not all the drinking and the stuff that went before. It is recovery. This is not sad story month, tragic story month, gory story month. It's not that month. This month is recovery month, and it's about recovering from that illness. An illness recognised by the World Health Authority, no less, or organisation, or whatever they call themselves, but it's recognised as an illness. It is an illness, and thankfully I survived that situation. I was given the opportunity to discover myself, start to go through the process of recovering from my illness, start to come to terms with that condition and what it means to live with that condition, and to master, or at least try to master, controlling that condition. And I'm very, very grateful that I was given that opportunity. And you are going to come with me for the next 30 days. I'm going to be downloading this thing. If I can work it out on this computer, it's the pink one, and we're going to download it, and you're going to be able to watch me every day, either in a good mood or clucking or wanting this or hearing that, or something's happened and it stressed me out and I'm not quite sure how to go. But whatever it is, we're going to do it together. Now, one thing I did think, so I started drinking when it was 1991. It's 27 years. I'm 39, as I said. 27 years of drinking and using drugs. 27 years. So I thought 27 years. I'm going to buy them back. One day at a time. Every day is going to be a year. It's 1991. I'm 13. He's had a tough life. So I'm 13, it's 1991, the Iraq war is raging. There's still a Soviet Union. And I'm gonna live for tonight like it's 1991. The Kiora's on standby. Terminator 2 Judgment Day is ready. I might even whack on a bit of Bryan Adams and play it 15 times. The one from Prince of Thieves, whatever that was called, that stayed at number 1. I think it's still number 1 now, potentially. So that's what we're doing. That's who I am. Very quickly for day one. So today one, I am at the moment working. Let's put it this way: it's not voluntary, yet it's unpaid. If you see what I mean, and it's connected to a previous thing that I've told you about. And I'm talking to some great people in that. Today I've been working at a school, been painting it, and I've met some of the nicest people. Hello Rio and hello Vic, if you do download it, two of the nicest people you ever meet. We've been chatting about philosophy and music and society and in general. It's funny where you meet the loveliest people and you have the most amazing experiences, because now I'm awake and I'm not sure if the world or the universe is opening up to me, or I was just asleep and I wasn't aware that it was there. But whatever it is, I'm experiencing it. So hi to you guys. It painted a school, had an amazing conversation. It turns out that this Vic character, a nefarious type of fellow, as you can imagine doing that sort of work, found a school piano and he played Rachmaninoff on it. The most amazingly talented guy. People were actually choking up. I mean, life is becoming very, very interesting and more surreal the less substances are pumped into my body, which surely I always thought would be the other way around, but it's not. So I'm going to leave you be for now. I'll obviously speak to you again tomorrow, and we'll see how that goes. I hope this is entertaining and educational. Informative, and if it's not, it's a way to kill 5 minutes of your evening and see me suffer going through life without drink or drugs, and that's got to be worth tuning into. So 1991, I better get a move on. because obviously I'm 13, and between now and tomorrow, my testicles are going to drop, which should be fun. I will leave you with this thought, something for you to Google tonight. Why does everything in the universe smell like burnt almonds? Google that, watch it, listen to it, whatever comes up. Peace, love, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Bye bye. So this is how real this is, because this is the awkward bit where I turn off the camera.